Welcome one and welcome all back to the LPL. What a glorious sight the LPL is, isn't it? As you just take in the breath of the skyline. I am Mazel and I'm joined by Goldberg, and we're going to be taking on Game 3, the distance between LGD and JDG.
Yeah, and so far this series has really lived up to our expectations. We wanted to see a lot of proactivity in the early game. We wanted to see these all-on-all team fights that it would lead to later into the game, and we've gotten it so far. First game of our series, definitely not the composition or way we expected them. JDG came into a team comp where it was way more about playing the map, and they had a lot of success with doing that, completely taking LGD rather off guard. But in this game too, LGD kind of just struck back. They found the priority picks for themselves. They found the early game they wanted for Shadow. And this time around, they found the team fights where they were able to finally shut down the players of JDG.
And they also found Ezreal for Kramer, which at this point is looking like a really scary thing if you're talking about it. But he did get the MVP there for game number 2 off the back of a deathless Ezreal performance. And especially off of a great game number 1 as well. But man, I know Ezreal's do a lot of damage. 45% of his team's damage dealt.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane to come out from your AD carry. Usually you hover around those 30% if you're really good at doing it. And this time around, 45, you said it yourself. But he's really good at being set up as well. Every time anyone of the LGD members dived in, Kramer was just there in the background with beautiful positioning. And I feel like around everything here just felt absolutely amazing. So satisfying to watch his Ezreal performance, because it was like max range with the abilities every time he was able to find them and catch them off guard.
And it's with the Ezreal, it just feels like it's fitting right. Yeah, that snipe was just too good, but it's also, he's just playing so cautiously back, but still able to have the range to get down the poke. And that's what's like the bread and butter of ADC, right? You're just looking to get the damage down and without being touched. And I feel like Kramer did so good on this Ezreal. I do wonder if JDG have to kind of focus that pick down, or at least maybe find a way to deal with it here, because the Kalista Senna was definitely not the answer. Something else that really jumps out here is we've highlighted so much about the early game for these teams, Shadow and Kanavi, the jungler matchup, but somebody else that's really shining through, Kramer, yes, but GA on LGD, taking it against his former team, being able to pick up the Viego in game number 2 and really have a great performance setting up the rest of his team, but still having the damage to back it up as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think we are going to be seeing a lot of adaptations going into this third game. Lee Sin, for example, first pick both times around. Wouldn't surprise me if we see this one go on to the set, rather instead of the Viego, which we've seen both teams prioritize. And then you talked a bit about it yourself with the Kalista, Senna, bot lane. It was a bit of a mismatch in style of composition in case in terms of 3 members of your top side of the map wanted to dive in and your bot lane wanted to kite back. So you created these awkward situations where you were never really on the same page if fights were to break out. But this time around, a Diana ban has come through against Shadow. He's not going to play this champion again.
Yeah, not going to get it 3 times in a row. JDG there on the blue side, LGD on the red. Yet again, no switch up of sides. JDG wanting to stick to the tried and true. They ban away those couple picks we've already seen, the Rumble, the Karma, but as you said, that Diana gets banned away. LGD take away the 3 typical picks that we've seen, Lucian, Nocturne, and Renekton. And yet again, 3rd game in a row, we're not changing much up about first picks, because that's a Lee Sin coming on through for JDG.
Yeah, and we talked about priority picks. Well, here is set. I wonder if they still feel like Viego is as big as a priority now that Shadow's Diana has been banned away. But no, they're just gonna get the Ezreal. Here's the adaptation I want to see though. Last time around they picked Kalista here. I'd love if they want to play backline, they either get the Varus here that's already up and available, or they get the Kaiser or the Jhin to facilitate. Kalista felt very awkward due to being paired up with the Senna, and it looks like they're still gonna go for it, but this time around they just need engage tools for it. Then they need to have either Leona, Nautilus, Alistar. These champions we talked about are so pivotal for the likes of Kalista.
Goldberg, I can't wait. We got opposite lane matchups. We got people picking up everybody else's champions. We got the Viego coming in for JDG, but as well as the Akali locked in for LGD.
And I'm expecting a silence ban here as well for the side of JDG. Here's the awkward situations. They still need to ban engaged champions themselves in the support role, because it's one of Kalista's biggest counters. Nautilus hates playing against that. Alistar hates playing against that. LGD, I think what the best champion to secure for you right now would be the Alistar. So I think banning away Sylas here would be crucial, because Sylas works well into Akali, works well into a potential Alistar you could fourth pick here for yourself, and then you would have a champion that does phenomenally well into the Kalista that can be kind of hard for them to play. So there we go, Silent Ban comes out. Now, JDG, do they feel like they still need to ban out Nautilus or the likes of Alistar, or are they feeling like they just want to handshake the matchup and just trade these two engaged supports with each other? Because Rel is also a champion that's still up and available.
I think that I was just about to say the Rel to me is like this undercover pick. Nobody's really as high on the priority for Rel, but I still feel like she provides so much, especially into the right team comp. We do get the Udyr ban as the last ban for JDG, and for the first time of the series, the Volibear makes it through and LGD lock it in.
Well, right now you can already see every champion of LGD has some sort of ability to dash towards your champion, to go into a composition and line for that back line against the Kalista. Kalista's job is going to be very hard when you're looking at this composition, and it is actually going to be the Gragas as a support, and I like that because you can kind of see it's the counter for a potential Alistar. Now LGD can't pick Alistar unless they want to counter match of themselves. So that's a nice little pickup we see from this side. And yeah, just hovering the center to kind of pour a bit of salt into their wound. I think Nautilus and Braum are champions that could work perfectly here. You got the disengage or the engage for going onto their carries here, and you got the instantaneous just press R on towards the Kalista or wherever you want to kill, and the rest of the members can dive in.
That's what I really like, the ending of the composition for LGD. I feel like they have a lot of strengths, but they also have a lot of appeal and potential for the CC chains. On the other side, though, JDG got that rise for the mid lane for Yagao, something we've been seeing rising in priority, at least across worldwide. And especially here for Yagao, it's going to feel really nice because you're also pairing it up with Lumao's Gragas, one of his most played for the split. And yes, Loken didn't have that strong of a performance on the Kalista with the Senna last time around. I feel like it could go a little bit different of a story this time with the Gragas support.
Okay, the biggest takeaway from me in that draft is that Kanavi is actually piloting the Lee Sin. He's not onto a Viego in the jungle. So that's going to be a slower clear from the Lee Sin. He's going to have to skip some camps to keep up in momentum with the Volibear. We talk a lot about what can these junglers do in the early game. Well, Kanavi's timers is just that much shorter because there's going to be more value on towards the Volibear. He's got the better brawling potential. He's got the better tower dive due to being able to disable towers. So on Kanavi right now, he's put himself in a position where he's kind of under pressure.
I feel like he's made himself the Atlas of JDG. He's got to hold the weight of the world here on this Lee Sin because, as you said, the brawling potential, not necessarily there. I do feel like the execution and finding the little spaces under the armor of LGD is where this Lee Sin will thrive for Kanavi. We've already seen how good he is at pathing over Shadow, knowing where Shadow is going to be, and finding those invades, and the Lee Sin does provide that for Kanavi as well.
It does provide that, and problem is right now that Lee Sin, yes, you can get onto a key target if you get the insect, but right now they don't mind really if they're being kicked into the enemy team. Volibear doesn't mind, Fearness doesn't mind on the set either, but if you can get the instantaneous CC chain onto one of them, that's definitely what you're looking for here. But on JDG, I will say with the Rise, they have potential to kind of do what they did with the Twisted Faith in Game 1. Yes, the range is nowhere near as long as the Destiny Gate is for Twisted Faith, but you still have time to collapse faster than the enemy mid laner. You have time to play the side lanes, and I think that is one of the ways JDG kind of gets their lead in towards this early game. They need to play the map, where on the side of LGD, they need to play from the jungle pressure Shadow can give them with the dives, with the Volibear, with the CC you got in every lane basically to play for.
Well, here we are. We have made it. The jungle clears start now. Game 3 between LGD and JDG. Both teams looking to take that step forward. JDG needing to hold on to the top of the pack here, and they need to prove themselves against LGD.
Yeah, and I'm back. I'm sorry. My headset just disconnected.
Well, that's not good. He didn't miss too much. Nothing crazy going on in 2 minutes. I know it's the LPL. Maybe we see some of that craziness, but no. We still got a little bit of time. And honestly, I'm very interested here at the pathing of these junglers, right? We're getting the bottom lane start, or at least the bottom jungle starts for both of them, which means that that top scuttle could be contested, and we could see that action coming down into the mid and top lanes, respectively.
It can be kind of tough to contest that scuttle, though. You can actually see Kanavi did not skip Crocs. Usually something we see Lee Sins do to keep up with the tempo. You can already see Shadow honestly coming from a bit of an awkward angle here where you can get an early dive onto Yagao.
This is going to be sub 3-minute shenanigans by LGD, and GA goes over the wall, trying to take some damage on Yagao. Yagao has a nice path up towards the top river, and will be able to make it out. So early gank from Shadow, I like to see it. Not going to get much, no.
Yeah, I like the use of it though, but I also like Yagao's positioning. You could see he was playing on towards his own wards. He had not seen Shadow on towards the Raptors, so he decided, all right, I can just play towards left side. Now Kanavi, we talked about we wanted early pressure. He's out to get it.
And I said, you know, Kanavi has really good pathing knowledge of Shadow, but Shadow's a bear, and he's in the jungle. He's in his home. And you got to be really careful. The skirmishing definitely coming out in favor of Shadow as Kanavi and Zoom might get away. Fearness might be in some trouble here himself. I thought maybe Kanavi would come up to help, but not going to do so. Just pathing out of the jungle. And again, another good look early on for both of these junglers as Xie is going to be forced to back under tower.
Yeah, he's going to be forced to back. Decent state for Yagao. He can TP back as well. Shadow spotted on a ward looking for Yagao, stopping the recall. So yeah, he doesn't get the kill, but stopping that recall is still crucial. Kind of delay him a bit, and you're able to try and go for the scuttle. But look at the bot lane right now. They don't want to let Shadow get that scuttle crap. They're moving up to kind of take it before him.
Mark was able to get over there as well. They're going to burn a TP for it just to make sure to get the double scuttle. There's the replay in the lower right of what happened to Xie under his tower, almost just getting blasted by Yagao on the rise. But JDG do secure the double scuttle off some great teamwork and great team play across the board.
I swear that is a solo queued jungler's biggest dream right there, that your mid laner will just TB for you to get double scuttle. So it also just kind of tells the story how much a priority the jungle is from the side of JDG. Despite them having picked Lee Sin, they still want to outcamp a Volibear. They actually did it, which we don't see fairly often. There's a small gold lead right now, and it's just coming off this little pressure we see that's built up. But obviously not a lot. We're talking 100. So game state still fairly even, but Kanavi right now haven't even cleared his top side of the map. So as soon as that is done, should see a little bit of a lead going over to him in the jungle.
That's also a sheen start for Shadow as well, the Volibear. I find that really interesting. See that early game potential damage coming out, that brawling coming out to fruition for Shadow on the Volibear. But it's still trying to find where the influence is going to come down. We've seen both junglers skirmishing. We've seen ganks come through for both junglers, although not successful. But nobody's been able to find that opening kill, that early blood to really propel themselves into control of the map. And honestly, it's working out for both sides, right? You're just at a farm fest at this point.
Yeah, but it also feels like when you take a look on towards priority in lanes in general, JDG are just the one with the biggest one right now. Bot lane always pushed in. Yagao in the mid lane, keeping Xie on the tower. And up towards that top side of the map, Fearness not having the same kind of pressure as we saw in the first, or the second game rather, his first game. So it's going to take some time for LGD to get into a position where they feel confident going for that. They need their first item. That's why they spike on the Akali. That's where Volibear starts to become a nuisance with the Divine Sundra as well.
And just looking to get those power spikes ready to go when they need to. We still have Dragon on the board for about a minute now, with JDG positioning themselves around this bot lane, maybe looking for a dive onto LGD's Kramer and Mark. But Kanavi is out on a ward, so they will know that it's coming. They'll look for the plates instead, and Kanavi just hovering while Shadow is up towards the top side, maybe looking for some invades.
Yeah, it's the classic jungle invade here. As soon as you see the enemy on towards the bot, you want to get the cross map just to get some camps away from him. Shadow did not have any camps up towards the bottom side of the map, so there's nothing Kanavi can cross map himself. They should put Shadow onto a little bit on the lead on towards the Volibear again, and Dumao needs to be a bit careful of Mark as well here, but they're not going for the engage. They want to reset, and you can take a look on towards the gold right now. Shadow is actually 200 gold up right now after having been in the jungle and taken away the camps from Kanavi.
And while we have a moment here, something else that's been really shining to me, and we've talked a lot about the junglers, we've talked about the mid-jungle duos, we've talked about Kramer himself, but Mark coming in and finding that synergy with Kramer from last split off Billy. I love it here from Mark. I love the play coming out from him, and just being that rock, I feel like, for LGD with their engages, with the Tom Kench coming out just to make sure Kramer's okay, and just being that crucial piece to making the machine work for LGD.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you play the likes of Tom Kench, you often go undervalued because it's like your role is literally to keep your AD carry safe, but it comes down to the positioning. And speaking of positioning, Shadow has made his way up towards the top side of the map. Could expect some bot lane shenanigans soon around the Drake as well. 1 minute on towards this next Rift Herald, or the first Rift Herald rather. So neutral objectives should be on the table for the team soon. But with the pressure JDG has been able to build up in the lanes, by the priority they've been able to gain, they should be the one who's setting up the control first. And then LGD should be the team that's responding with either just giving it over or with a contestation for themselves.
And GA is having such a hard time dealing with Yagao's rise here. You see, almost just dies outright. Almost dies the auto attack as well. Yagao has the rest of his team here as Mark comes into the lane. It's a bit of a supportal gank, but GA is having really, really tough times dealing with the rise, and they've got to find a way to stop that. The dredge line comes in on the Yagao. They have to re-engage. Their Shadows now in the fight, but they're getting the TPs in as well, and they're going for the fights. Kanavi is overextended. Kanavi goes down. Kramer gets the kill. They get the return. Lumao gets one. Do they get Shadow as well? The reset's now coming in, and that will be Zoom being able to pick up that one as well.
Yeah, but Zoom on towards the Viego. Those two Heartbreakers was amazing. And meanwhile, Logan has just been towards the bot side, getting himself some plates as a little sneaky AD carry he's been on this Kalista, not taking part of the play. So no neutral objectives will come out of this one, but it's still a kill favor and a plate favor going over to JDG.
LGD just wanted this fight, and they do get some from it, right? But you're engaging while GA has less than 300 health. You've got to expect that some shenanigans are going to happen afterwards, and especially with Zoom on this Viego, just feels really nice getting those resets as you see coming through.
Yeah, the flash from Shadow felt very forced, especially onto Lumao, who's already got the body slam himself and a flash he can get out with. And then Kanavi, it was kind of his turn to overextend himself, flashing in and then just dying. So felt like both teams were a bit too willing to trigger the trigger, if that is something we can say. And now, when we take a look on towards the Summoner spells, when we look at what was burned after that, TP advantage is up for Fearness. So if LGD wanted to, they could go for the Drake, or they could try to contest this Herald up here, and it looks like they're moving their members up for a contest.
Yeah, they have also Shadow running up through mid lane as well. JDG pull off of the Rift Herald, don't want to pick a fight just yet that they are starting, right? They want LGD to move in so they can choose how they want to approach it. But LGD move in and just take the Rift Herald. They find the engagement as well. Lumao's just dead.
Okay, so I like the setup from JDG because they forced them to either you just go into this situation 4v4, you put your AD carry towards the bottom, or you need to send your AD carry up to have a man advantage for this situation. They then decide they want to send the Ezreal up, and then JDG's response needs to be, alright, we're backing up because we're getting free plating on towards Loken. He's getting XP for himself. You can see Loken, without having been a part of any fight whatsoever, despite being a kill down to Kramer, is actually up 400 gold. And that's because they make these situations where they force LGD to make a choice where they'll lose out on something no matter what. But then they kind of decided to go in either way, despite knowing they were a man down. And that's where the mistake lay in JDG's play there.
GA is just oppressed, man. He can't do anything under his tower as this Akali. Not the same as Yagao, who is just dip diving, ducking, and dodging all over the place last game as the Akali. Just feels really locked into the mid lane right now, not able to get on the side lanes, not able to get helping onto Shadow here, and that will be the first dragon going over to JDG with some excellent positioning, but Zoom is not in position. Oh my god! The unstoppable from the Heartbreaker does it, and Zoom gets out.
That should not be allowed. They tried to come through with the crossbow. If they were able to pick up the kill, they had a Rift Herald. They could have gotten first turret. Zoom with one ultimate just destroyed
so well timed.
LGD's play.
Honestly, that was so impressive, and I know Zoom is a damn good player, but that was awesome to see that come through the execution and to make sure that LGD's hopes are shut down right there.
Yeah, not only that, they get the first turret towards the bottom now. They thought, all right, we can give over the Drake. We'll get the first turret first because we have Harold. We just need to get a pick on Zoom first. But Zoom was able to get out of it. And because of that, Logan is going to be able to pick up the first turret for himself. So not only did JDG get the Drake, they also get the first turret. Great play from JDG and facilitated by Zoom's little cute outplay there with the Heartbreaker.
And all of a sudden, Logan finds himself up 1.3K over Kramer. And on this Callisto, it's feeling a lot different than game number 2. Feeling a lot better than game number 2, not having all those deaths. And I like the movement coming out, or at least the heads-up play from JDG. We've always known them as a cerebral team, or as a cerebral team. But here they're able to find their advantages while keeping LGD at a distance.
But despite all that, the game is still fairly even here, myself.
Very.
Like, it's still, like, there's not even 1K. What do you say? Defining teams here between each other. So it's still going to be very much even. And going into further objectives, is still 3 minutes on towards it. So from the side of JDG, with the Rise, when you have that Well Warp available, you want to push out with the wave pressure. We've already seen they've been able to establish throughout all of the game, basically. You want to be able to collapse on towards side lanes to make sure you can pressure one lane and then transfer that pressure to another lane to make sure you keep LGD down all the time. You keep them on their feet, you make them play from the back foot. And LGD right now, their game plan is they need items. You need that Riftmaker onto Shie. You need Kramer with at least one more item to be really a scary champion on towards the Ezreal as we've seen him earlier. And then obviously Fearness as well need to come in with the Stridebreaker to have a bit more mobility to start up these fights. Shadow has found Kanavi.
It's so funny how these fights go down because Shadow is totally confident in the early part of that fight, just trying to get the kite away from Kanavi, and then Kanavi ends up trading a decent amount, but it's definitely going over in favor of Shadow, and Kanavi just kind of face checked that bush. So Shadow is actually getting the upper hand on the at least map movements, knowing where Kanavi is kind of looking for, where he's going to be positioning. But for me now, you got to kind of turn your attention, right? You have to really start focusing on target selection for LGD. And somebody who, as we've already highlighted a little bit, been kind of just farming out the game, but still getting stronger and stronger as we go, is Loken on this Kalista, who's gotten about a 30 CS lead over Kramer.
Yeah, and at some point in time, you also need to invest in some healing reduction. You can see Executioner's Calling has already come out for Fearness, but it's not too sure you're going to be able to apply that on the Kalista as you're mostly taking out the top side of the map.
720 gold from 5 plates for the Kalista. The full shebang going over to Loken, and that's where a lot of that lead has come from as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, that gold lead that you see from the side of Loken, you can see he's 1,500 close to over Kramer right now. So when the team fight starts breaking out, when the Kalista gets 2 items, yeah, you haven't interacted with her yet as LGD, but you'll definitely feel the interaction once she starts getting onto you.
I love that. Yeah, you'll definitely feel it when she rips those Rin stacks out of you and your whole health bar is gone. But Mark able to get away with a little bit of a cheeky dredge line out of the way just in case, because the Lumao was going for the full engage. They want to try and get the kill there. Maybe get Loken some action on the Rift. But with that being said, about 1 minute, 10 seconds for this second dragon of the game to spawn. It will be an Infernal Dragon. Not going to be necessarily the most important thing for either of these teams, but we have seen in this series that early objective control can mean a lot, and prioritizing those early objectives can mean a lot.
Oh, trust me, both teams right now are feeling confident to fight this one. You can see both teams just went for the reset. Riftmaker came through from Shie. Shadows picked up his Divine Sunderer. So mythic items are active on all teams right now. And second items haven't been picked up by anyone yet. So if you want to feel confident as LGD to go into the fight here, this is definitely the time to do it. This is the time where Akali starts getting scary. And this is the time where Loken is going to be needing some peel, because they're going to be looking to diving in on the backline. Stormbringer with Volibear, suplex from the set, and obviously the Akali with the perfect execution is going to be what they're looking for onto Loken.
Yeah, you can see both teams positioning around this mid lane, just both trying to push it out, get ready for that dragon, and see if maybe they can get any catch-outs here. There is still the option to trade. There's still the Rift Herald on the board. So one of these teams, you know, if you're going to give up that dragon, could just be the first dragon LGD, meaning that JDG will prioritize that Herald as well as the top tower over getting their second dragon of the game.
And here's what should happen after. You can see the bot lane from Shie is already starting to get pushed out. They're setting up the Crash Mob already. They know as soon as this Rift Tower is getting down, they're going to be looking up towards the top side of the map. And you can already see Fearness, he's stepping back. He doesn't want to be on under any dive potential. But speaking of dive potential, they're also trying to set the cross map up for a dive towards the bottom. They're actually trying to predict each other's moves right now. I like this from JDG and LNG. It's so cool.
It's like watching chess unfold right in front of you, but on Summoner's Rift somehow. I don't know how we got that to work out, but Yagao is going to wish it didn't because he's got Shadow and GA taking him down here. He's going to buy a lot of time, but it doesn't matter. The Stormbringer stops the tower, and he goes down.
Yeah, mid lane though is going to get dived under here instead with Shelly, and you can see up towards the top side of the map, Fiennes respected that a potential dive could happen. He backed up. When JDG saw that, they're like, alright, we're just going to be using the Rictel in the mid lane. But Yagao, a bit overextended by staying on the tower. That was essentially already lost when you saw Shadow put those resources towards the bottom. And Stormbringer, obviously, very easy for Volibear to set up a dive.
Yeah, the press R button's making it strong here. I will say Mark was like a pixel away from catching out Zoom right there. Not going to do it, so nothing's going to come of it, but Mark is just so close, but so far. And with that being said, you know, bot lane's getting the resurgence of Yagao TPing into the lane. We still don't have an objective for a little while. We got a lot of focus down towards this bot side, at least for the vision control of LGD.
And as of right now, 18 minutes into the game to kind of take stack off where we are. Baron will be the next neutral objectives in about 2 minutes. We're talking about a lot about 2-item power spikes, and you can see Kramer is making his way up towards that more mana tier. He's already fully stacked. Second item just came through from Loken, so if you want to fight around any advantages, you could try to create some skirmishes right now around the vision control. You don't necessarily have to start up a Baron, but you can bait things now. You get the red buff onto Loken, you try to get in and put some vision onto the enemy jungle, and you ask them, do you want this camp? Because then you have to fight us for it. And then you try to create that skirmish when you still have a little bit of advantage with this second item onto Loken. You can see him right now with the gold. 8,000, highest in the game.
And I was just about to say that Runans just unlocks Kalista in the team fights, getting those multiple Ren stacks down and really setting up the AoE that you're looking for JDG, where they don't necessarily have that besides the Rise. So I want to see how they can use this item power spike, where now on the other side, Kramer also has a second item, has the Mirror Mana completed, as well as the stacks completed. And so, again, it's leaning down to, yes, the early jungles, the pressure that they can find, the early advantages they can find, but it's the Loken and Kramer show when we get further on and into the team fights.
Yeah, for sure, and you need to be careful of Xie, obviously. All of LGD, what they want to do is just elite this Kalista before she gets to play these fights. And right now, LGD needs to be a bit careful. They could be collapsed on towards the top side of the map, who's moving into the mid lane. But they're just going to be diving down towards the bottom lane, where Xie could look towards getting this pressure on towards the turret. You can see Zoom has to respect it. He needs to back off, or else Shadow is just going to make the exact same play we saw him do on Yagao earlier. He's moving down. I've seen this one before. This
is so much trouble coming down for Zoom. He's going to use the Heartbreaker, gets out with it, and going to burn the ulti. Not too long of a cooldown right there, but does give away some of that damage. Well, JDG, see what happens. They saw Shadow on the bot side. They're like, no, you messed up. We're going to start the Baron. TPs are coming down, but it's Zoom joining the fight to try and keep some of the pressure off of the Baron take. JDG actually are going to pull out of the Baron pit, the re-engage from Mark. Maybe, yeah, I was going to say that was a mistake. He's going to flash away, and you're getting a lot of poke. Kramer getting a 4-man True Shot barrage. There's the Realm Warp to get most of JDG back to the mid lane. And after a lot of shenanigans, craziness with movement, JDG make it out of the Baron pit alive.
Yeah, they have to get out of there with the Realm Warp, but Kramer, once again, he finds so much damage from so far away onto the targets, has finished off the 2 items we talked about ourselves now, and so has Xie. He doesn't need to be careful about diving onto the backline now, because he'll have the Twilight Shroud, he'll have the mobility, and now he'll have the Sonya's Hourglass to keep him alive a little longer, and fight may not break out around Baron, but it could still break out around this Drake that will be spawning in 30 seconds. You can see resets are coming through right now. They want to get that vision control up around the setup for the Drake so they can put themselves in a favorable situation for it.
Yeah, getting a leg up here with that second dragon would be nice for at least the map mobility of these teams, but JDG are the ones that are set place and center for that dragon. They're going to push back out mid lane. They're going to reposition around that dragon pit. And yes, you have LGD coming down. You have Fearness in the side lane. You have TP available for him as well. But it just doesn't feel like LGD are in exactly the position they want to be to take this fight. But they're going to move into the river anyways because they want to make sure. GA on the flank here, gonna find Zoom, but the Dragon's already about halfway down and already gonna go down to Kanavi, but LGD want to take the fight afterwards. You got a 1v1 on the side, but the wombo combo's coming through, and JDG's help.
And there we go, finally a fight for LGD going over to once again. Drake does go to JDG, but at what cost? Baron is being pinged up here towards the top side of the map. Kanavi is still alive. We've seen him go for steal already earlier today. No flash though, but Lee Sin famous for getting steals. I just don't know if he can get here in time.
I don't know. There's a will, there's a way. I don't know if Kanavi's got either of those here as Dragon or Baron about 5,000 health. Zoom is now in front of the pit. Does have his shadows, his mist here. Loken actually gets engaged back on. Kanavi gets the dredge line, and the Baron already goes down. Xie is looking to blow him up, and he does. Kanavi's gone. And they're able to find it after the Baron. They get everything, and they get to eat their cake, too. Here comes the Realm Warp Yagao joining the fight. They want to take it. This is a 4v5, but JDG are opting into it anyways, and that was a mistake as they're losing everybody. And the fact that GA is on 10 stacks of the Dark Seal right now, LGD have taken control of this game.
2 items onto Akali. That's what it looks like in this meta, and when your carry is an AD carry, then it's easy for the team comp of LGD to lock that down. Mark with the point and click ultimate on towards Logan, Xie with the follow-up, and Kramer once again with the reliable damage in the background. We start all the way back at the Drake, it seems like.
We're gonna see the bit of a 1v1 on the side between GA and Zoom. Zoom gets out with the Heartbreaker, but then the re-engage here and the perfect execution to join the fight by GA. They just have the numbers advantage and they pick apart JDG, which has been the way they've won these fights over and over again. And then we get the fight in front of the Baron pit where Kanavi just gets dragged out.
And you know, they finally seemed like they had a better setup this time around. 3 members on towards the Baron, 2 members stopping whoever wanted to go in, and then JDG kind of just goes for a bit of an overextension here. They're still down at a man advantage. They're still playing against Baron, and it's just not helping their situation.
We were saying about keeping the pressure up, keeping it in front of the enemy team, and LGD right off the replay are back into JDG's red side of the jungle. They're pushing up with the Baron buff in 2 lanes, in this mid and the bot lane, and they're able to find these outer towers.
Yeah, LGD had a slow start to today, but this time around in Game 3, Kramer, okay, I've seen you arcane shift forward like that before. I need to be a bit more careful. But Kramer also on the Ezreal up until that point has played so reserved. He's been so patient as well. And right now, minion waves are just being stacked. They're just being pushed in. It's a 4-1 composition right now. And it's working out for LGD.
And Kramer with the 3rd game of Ezreal in a row and a 3rd carry performance coming through for LGD, really just making this Ezreal a need to focus, and they just haven't been able to, right? You have a good composition for some follow-up. You've got the Lee Sin. You've got a lot of sustained damage through these AoE team fights, but if he's never in a position to get caught, if he's always in the back, if he's just popping shots like a sniper, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, the problem right now is there's so many threats if a fight were to break out. Yeah, you can take care of Kramer, but who's going to take care of Xie then?
Yeah.
It's about finding an instantaneous pick, either with Lumau's Cask, where they're able to just seize him up, get the possession for Zoom. That would be the ideal scenario for you to get back into the game.
We tried to catch GA there with the Black Mist from Zoom, but they don't find it. Akali's just too quick, too slick. At 403 is on the power spikes you need to be, has a lot of defensive tools, but a lot of damage to follow it up. And you see JDG are a bit scared to deal with that as they're getting engaged on under tower here in the bottom inhib tower, and that's a huge haymaker. JDG are trying to pull away, but that's a 4-man true shot barrage from Kramer, and he's still untouched in the back line. Yes, you're going to get some damage down onto him now, but your entire team is gone. That's another ace, and LGD have done it. They have taken the fight they needed to against JDG, and they're gonna push for the win, Goldberg.
Yeah, we always talked about LGD. They're just an early game team. They always struggle in the mid game. They're not able to find their leads, but not this time around. This time around, they finally find a team fight. They found game 2, and now they finally find their game 3 and the series here.
What a series from LGD. They're dragging JDG right back to them. And a heck of a performance from Shadow, from Kramer, from GA, and even from Fearness to come in and help out with Mark to make sure they can get the kills where they needed to. And honestly, just take the big brainness away from JDG. It looked like JDG couldn't play those the second game and the third game.
And it looks so dire for them in the first game. They're being out macroed. They're being out team forward. And then
it looked really rough.
It looked even worse when, all right, we have to put in a substitute. We don't know what's going to come out of this one, but it seemed like to be exactly what they needed. They found stability, they found mid-game team fights, and they found compositions that work for them.
Look at those smiles.
That once again, Kalista leaves me disappointed a bit.
Yeah, I will say the Kalista, high hopes all you can for that pick, but it just did not look good for JDG in this one. They even had the Viego paired with it this time, but GA breaking out against his former team. I love it. I love those kinds of stories. It gets my blood pumping, but as a whole squad for LGD to take it to JDG like this is something that JDG are going to be reeling from.
Oh, most definitely. And you saw Shea, he was really feeling the pressure in the early game, always pushed out so close to dying multiple times. I mean, we're talking at least 20 HP left some of these times. We saw him get poked out and forced to just back. But then, it is Akali right now in this meta. As soon as you get 2 items, and as soon as you have a pure stylistic for the composition where it's just about diving in onto the enemy with the set, with the volley bear, there is nothing JDG could do. I feel like the drafting evolved here from the side of LGD as well, where they're actually able to pick up exactly what they wanted.
And Shadow, the man, the Italian, I was going to say Stallion, but that's Jizuke over in NA. But the Italian jungler coming in after you said taking a year and just coming and filling into the LPL as this aggressive jungler and working out so beautifully with his team. LGD look like revitalized squads, and especially the way that they're able to take it to top teams like this and have those fighting moments where you're like, you make one change in the decision making, you make one move here that is different from what you were able to pull off. That changes the entirety of the game, and this is a heck of a pickup for them, as being able to say you beat JDG is no small feat. It's pretty nice to be able to take that dub, and especially for this younger team, or at least this developing team together with the synergy that they've been trying to build, it sets you up really nicely.
100%. And this time around, we also saw LGD get rid of those mistakes we talked about earlier, all the way back to our pregame. In the mid game, a lot of mistake does come out for them. They're being caught off guard. They're having the wrong setup for the objectives. We saw a bit of it with the Baron again.
Oh my god.
And that's the thing, right? That's the 2-item power spike we talked about. You need it from the side of LGD. And once again, Kramer topping the damage percentages for just finding the poke and the excellent true shot barrages as well to land on multiple members for the rest of his team to just come in and pick them up. GH damage wasn't really that significant until we reached a point where he was just able to pick them up with the perfect executions in the later stages of the game.
I feel like that gold graph is like a coastal region. It's the drop off in the water where it gets really deep and you start seeing some like bigger fish and stuff. But I mean, the ocean is deep right now for LGD. And I want to circle back over to a lot of the points that we were talking about for this series when we're putting a lot of the pressure onto Shadow versus Kanavi. Yes, you were having GA there, you were having Yagao, you still had very strong performances from the solo lanes, but this entire series I felt like was dictated from that jungle position. And even if we got a little bit sidetracked in it because people were getting a little caught out in game 2 and 3 from JDG's perspective, I still feel like that initial butting heads in game number 1 really let Shadow feel out how Kanavi was going to approach this game. And we saw later on, he was the one getting the great positionings on Kanavi, knowing where Kanavi was going to want to be, and especially the aggression from Kanavi kind of being his downside.
Yeah, I absolutely love that storyline as well, just because in recent interviews with Shadow, he was talking about how he really looked forward to playing Kanavi. It's one of these junglers that's been to Worlds before as well. World-class junglers go kind of want to face each other as well here, and Shadow this time around felt the pressure of Kanavi, even on the Lee Sin, came in and invaded onto him, got double scuttled by Lee Sin, and once again, the pressure from JDG still felt immense. You still felt like Shadow all the time had to fight for it. It felt very competitive between the junglers. Yagao, even if the early game, if we take it all the way back, TP'd to facilitate Kanavi getting 2 scuttles. Like, that is how much priority that was put on towards the junglers in this series. And when we move into the mid game, when we move on to set up the dives, it felt like the members of JDG kind of started disrespecting Shadow and his potential on the Volibear, staying on the turrets that he could just disable, finding these kills to get sheer his items faster, kind of sealed the deal for LGD.
And I just wonder, like, it was so interesting to me not to see JDG swapping the sides. You know, they stayed on that blue side there for the 3rd game, and I wonder how much that had to do with kind of picks they were looking for and what they were trying to pick up in that 3rd draft. But it just felt like the pieces they had were really good, but it was what happened on the Rift that really mattered. And I think that's all we know about Summoner's Rift, is it's what happens on the Rift. You can pick up stellar compositions, but it's all about the execution. Speaking of execution, we have executed the first series of the day, Goldberg. We're going to be taking on couple more series, got just a couple more games for the rest of the day, but that's going to be it from us for this casting duo. We're going to have Munchables and Dagda coming in to finish out series 2 and 3. Make sure you stick around because we've got Suning versus BLG and the match of the week, RNG taking on LNG to round us out.